On February 24th, 2022, Russian army invaded Romania, launching its attacks on 4 different routes. Through the northwestern border, Halmeu, Săpânța, and Sighet, through the northeastern border, Putna, Rădăuți, and Dărăbani, through the eastern border, mainly Iași, but also Huși and Galați, through the southern border, Tulcea and Constanța. A massive, full-scale invasion. Within the first days, the Russian troops reached Satu Mare, Baia Mare, Suceava, and Botoșani. In a week, Iași and Constanța were under Russian control. On the bright side, at the end of the first month after the invasion, Romanian army succeeded to push the Russians back in the northwest, retaking Hamleu, Săpânța, and Sighet, and stopping the advancement of the invaders across the lines Galați, Tecuci, Mărășești on the eastern front and Călăraș-Galați on the southeastern front. In less than a month, Romania has lost more than 20% of its territory. In less than a month, puppet governments were set in Iași and Constanța, and the Republic of Free Moldova and Free Dobrogea were proclaimed. Children under the age of 12 from across the occupied territories were sent to Russian patriotic camps to learn about the so-called persecution their families suffered during the centuries-long Romanian domination. Many will never return. The Romanian government decided that all men under the age of 50 were conscripted to fight in the war alongside all women under the age of 35, regardless of their social status. Over 200,000 civilians have been killed, many in the first weeks of the invasions, in an attempt of ethnic cleansing. The population of a city the size of Oradea has been wiped out. The Russians targeted mainly the energy infrastructure, destroying or forcefully shutting down Cernavodă nuclear plant, Porțile de Fier, Ploiești oil fields, and Mediaș gas infrastructure. The cruelty of Russian troops was shocking. Many cases had been recorded in which civilians were killed for not being able to speak Russian or for not wanting to enroll in the Russian army. At the beginning of the invasion, at a fancy bar in Craiova, a group of 4 friends were watching a soccer game, when suddenly the TV started broadcasting the unfolding of the events at the eastern border of the country. Initially, they believed the images were part of a prank, then panicked and called their families, reassuring themselves that everything was going to be fine. In the end, their hearts started pumping angry, thinking the history was pulling the country through a cruel destiny. Romania did nothing wrong to Russia and never tried to conquer or harm its much stronger neighbor. Two of the friends decided to join the army and defend their country. One chose to flee the country, and the fourth one tried to avoid conscription and have a normal life at home in his home city. The friends who joined the army were killed in the first year of the war, when their outpost was attacked by a large number of Russians. They were outnumbered 5-1, and despite the bravery, the lack of manpower and ammunition ended in their defeat and tragic death. The third one was captured while trying to cross the border and forcefully sent to the front line. He also fought fiercely until a storm of Russian drones attacked his hideout and wounded him severely, eventually causing him to lose his life. The fourth friend, not bearing so much tragedy around himself and facing imminent conscription and deployment, decided to end his life. Similar heartbreaking stories can be found across Oltenia, in Telorman, in Brașov, Alba, and Mureș. Families destroyed, children, parents, and elderly decimated. Topics like democratic elections, economic growth, urban planning, family dinners, and weekend city breaks disappeared and were replaced by the lack of heating, food shortages, limp treatments, and burial places. Every single news crew had a war story in which a journalist, a cameraman, a copywriter, or the weather person has been killed, gone missing, or is fighting between life and death in an improvised frontline hospital. There were no more weddings, but funerals. No more newborns, but rebirths from the front line. No more birthdays, but celebrations of one more day Ukraine survived the Russian invasion. Over 1,000 days since brave Ukrainians managed to show the entire world that Russia can be defeated, and we, the world, cannot get tired of this ongoing aggression, but tireless be aware and support the splendid, heroic struggle Ukrainian nation is facing its cruel destiny.
At 3:40 a.m., Russia launched a full-scale invasion. Putin called it a special military operation. Missile strikes hit dozens of cities, but the government remained in Kiev. This proved Ukraine's institutional stability and the strength of its democracy. In those difficult days, Ukraine showed the world that its independence was not a historical accident. Russian imperialism crashed against Ukrainians' aspirations for independence. By early March, the occupiers had captured parts of Sumy, Chernihiv, Kiev, Zaporizhia, Kherson, and Kharkiv regions. Kherson, Melitopol, Berdyansk were captured, and Mariupol was surrounded. Kiev withstood. Soon, Ukraine began to regain its territory. When the Ukrainian armed forces liberated Kiev Oblast, the world witnessed the atrocities in Bucha. The cruiser Moskva sank. In the summer, Snake Island was liberated, and Ukraine launched a counter-offensive in September. At that time, a significant part of the Kharkiv region was liberated, along with the city of Liman in the Donetsk region. In these cities, many graves were found. In those days, Ukraine completely destroyed the myth of the invincible second army in the world. That's when the Kerch Bridge exploded, and just 2 days later, Russia launched the first massive missile strike on energy facilities and civilians. Kherson was liberated in the last month of that autumn. At the beginning of summer, Russia blew up the Kakhovka hydroelectric power station, flooding 80 settlements. In February 2024, Oleksandr Syrsky became the commander-in-chief. In August, the Kursk operation began, which allowed the creation of a buffer zone. In October, information emerged that Putin was deploying soldiers from North Korea to Ukraine. Now, Ukraine is the foundation of security on the continent. Supporting Ukraine contributes to the security of Europe and the world. Against Ukraine is fighting the axis of evil, which seeks to destroy the global security system. And now, the final stretch of the struggle that has been ongoing since 2014. Today marks 1,000 days of the full-scale invasion, but our resistance is as strong as on the first day.
Again, thank you so much for coming here. We have a distinguished panel, and I would like to introduce them briefly. To my right is the Ambassador of Ukraine to Romania, His Excellency Igor Prokopchuk. To his right is Anca Cristina Tinca, Secretary of State, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Romanian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. To her right is Maria Korolchuk. And to her right is Mr. Armand Goshu. He is a historian and associate professor at the University of Bucharest. I would like to invite Your Excellency to share with us a few thoughts about the experience Ukrainian had in the last 1,000 days with the struggle for freedom that you are experiencing.
Good morning. Good morning to everyone who participates this morning in this important event. I would like to start by thanking Poșta Română, Mr. Stefan, for the initiative of organizing our meeting and placing focus on the sober occasion of 1,000 days since Russia started its all-out invasion into Ukraine. In the introduction, Mr. Staffel presented to us a fictionary scenario of Russia's invasion on Romanian territory. And it is frightening. And this is not entirely fiction, because this is what Ukrainians had to experience when the Russian forces invaded Ukraine in February of 2022. The missiles started to pound the cities and sleeping citizens early in the morning hours, whereas tens of thousands of Russian troops started to move on the Ukrainian territory with thousands of pieces of armory from different directions, from the south, from the east, and from the north. This is 1,000 days of war that no one wanted except one person, the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. It is the war of his choice, because it was not necessity. It was a deliberate decision to invade an independent, sovereign European state. With all the consequences, awful consequences, and repercussions of the war, which we now know is the biggest war in Europe since World War II. We didn't know it on the 24th of February 2022 that this war will become the biggest war in Europe since World War II. But it became such. And it became such because the Ukrainian forces and the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian leadership did not let the Russians execute their plans of conquering Ukraine, of conquering Kiev within 3 to 5 days. And this was the calculation. This war has inflicted enormous pain and suffering on the Ukrainian people. Tens of thousands of killed and wounded. Executions of civilians. Enforced disappearances. Rapes. Tortures. Mass killings of civilians in the areas which were occupied by the Russian forces. Enormous destruction of economic potential of Ukraine and also of critical infrastructure. In these 1,000 days of war, the Russians launched over 11,000 missiles of all types on Ukrainian cities. Over 75% of the targets of Russian missiles are civilian and critical infrastructure facilities. The most recent of such massive attacks took place on the night from last Saturday to Sunday. Over 200 missiles and drones were directed at different cities just across Ukraine, in nearly all oblasts. 120 missiles and over 90 attack drones, targeting Kiev, Poltava, Odessa, Kharkiv, Dnipro, Lviv, Zakarpattia Oblast in the western Ukraine, all parts of the country. And the focus, again, the energy infrastructure and the critical infrastructure. From autumn of 2022, the Russians launched over 1,000 missiles only at energy infrastructure of my country. By now, they were able to destroy 90% of thermal power generation facilities in Ukraine. They have destroyed over 70% of hydropower generation in Ukraine. We have lost, in the recent attacks on energy infrastructure in my country, over 9 gigawatts of power generation. Ukraine's consumption in the last winter from 2023 to 2024 was 18 gigawatts. at the peak times. So now they have knocked out, they have destroyed half of this generation capacity in Ukraine. These are the acts which we qualify as acts of terrorism because these are deliberate attacks on civilians, on infrastructure to make life for civilians unbearable. The Ukrainian law enforcement are now investigating over 150,000 cases of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and crimes of genocide. Because the Russian actions in Ukraine, they clearly bear the signs of genocidal war. They're destroying Ukrainians. For Ukrainians, this is the fight for their existence. It is the question whether at all Ukrainians will be able to continue to exist as a separate nation when the Russian dictator continues to claim that Russians and Ukrainians are one people. And he doesn't mean that Russians are Ukrainians, but rather that Ukrainians are Russians. And whoever thinks differently would get killed, or would get captured and would get put into prison. The Russians have deported tens of thousands of Ukrainian children from the occupied areas to Russia, where their national identity is erased. They are told that they are Russians. They are changed their names and family names, and every effort is made to seize their connection with the country, with their native land and the country of origin. And these are the actions which are qualified as the acts of genocide. You may know that the International Criminal Court has made Vladimir Putin an indicted war criminal, together with his accomplice, particularly for the crime of forced deportation of Ukrainian children to Russia. Other representatives of Russian military command have also been placed on the list of indicted war criminals for the crimes they have committed against the civilian population of Ukraine. Whereas attacks at the residential housing or attacks on infrastructure. There are a number, apart from the event that we have today, there are a number of other events that were organized by different institutions yesterday and the day before yesterday in connection with the 1,000 days of Russia's invasion into Ukraine. Yesterday, a special session of the European Parliament was called, and it was addressed by President of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky. One day prior to that, there was a special meeting of the United Nations Security Council on the ministerial level addressing the topic of 1,000 days of Russia's invasion into Ukraine. This meeting was attended by Ukrainian Foreign Minister, where he spoke about the price of this war that we didn't want. And this price is very high. It is extremely high for the Ukrainians because, after all, Ukrainians are paying the ultimate price. They are paying with blood for their choice of being within Europe, being a member of the European Union, being a member of NATO, for their right to exist as a separate nation and to make their own decisions about the future of the nation. This price is very high. We also pay a very high economic price. In the past months, all of Ukrainian budget is directed towards defense forces to maintain the Ukrainian military, the defense forces, and also to maintain the Ukrainian defense production, which we have been able to significantly increase in the past year. The price is high also for our partners who are supporting us and assisting us, and we are grateful for that. It is the military assistance that Ukraine receives, financial assistance, economic, humanitarian. We are very grateful for that. The price is high. But the price will be much higher if we are not able to stop the Russian advance. And this is our responsibility, that we feel that we cannot let the Russians to take an upper hand in this war and move further. They will not stop unless they're stopped. And it is far better, of course, for us, Ukraine, but for all Europeans, if they are stopped and pushed back from Ukraine. We do believe, and we are strongly convinced, that collectively, Ukraine and the world democratic countries are much stronger than Russia. We can stop them. The Ukrainian defense forces have showed that Ukrainian forces, that the Russian forces can be defeated. We destroyed this myth of invincibility of Russian forces by liberating large parts of the Ukrainian territory that were initially occupied by the Russians, but also by successfully executing the operation in the Kursk Oblast. That was a defense operation. What Ukraine wants is the Russians to leave Ukrainian territory and leave Ukrainians alone and let us live and build our own life. This is what we want. Collectively, we will be able to win them, but we must stay united. They continue to aim at disrupting our unity, and this is what we must not let happen. I want also to note and take this opportunity of the presence of State Secretary Tinka to thank for the support and assistance that we have been receiving from Romania as a country in Ukraine, and also support and assistance that were extended to Ukrainian citizens that were fleeing Russian missiles and Russian bombs from the very first days of the Russian invasion. That meant a lot to us, to know that so many people were able to find safety and refuge on the territory of Romania, find warmth, hospitality. We also appreciate the political support and assistance and a very strong common position, placing emphasis on the need to fully renew respect to the norms of international law, the sovereignty, territorial integrity, internationally recognized borders of Ukraine. That's important for us. Just as that when this special meeting of the UN Security Council took place 2 days ago, there was also a representative of Romania speaking at this meeting in support of Ukraine and arguing for our position and for the values and principles that we share. So I would stop here and let other speakers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. I would like to pass the microphone to Ana Cristina Tinga, again, State Secretary from the Romanian Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor for me to be here with you today. And let me join my voice in commending the initiative of Poșta Română. I'm again deeply honored to be part to this event. Indeed, yesterday we commemorated 1,000 days since Russia launched the invasion against Ukraine, a horrifying war, an illegal, unprovoked, unjustified war against a sovereign and independent country, forcing Ukraine to defend itself. And during all these 1,000 days, the Ukrainian soldiers and the entire Ukrainian people continue to fight. On this day, and actually on every day, I think we have to pay our tribute to all the innocent victims of this war, to the victims in uniform, and to the civilian victims, to convey our deepest sympathy to the family who lost loved ones, and also to the people who were forced to leave their home and leave an entire life behind in order to seek refuge in the face of the Russian invasion. These are, of course, the heroes who pay the ultimate sacrifice. And, of course, they are fighting for Ukraine, for the future of the Ukrainian people, because Ukraine is obviously the victim of this aggression, and we are witnessing a horrifying human tragedy unfolding in our immediate vicinity, and huge destructions of the civilian infrastructure, as it was mentioned here, of entire cities. We feel the impact of this war as a neighboring country, and the entire region is affected by this war. The Euro-Atlantic security is impacted. And the consequences are even broader than this. Because in Ukraine, actually, international law is under attack. And all the principles that held together the international rules-based international order after the Second World War are under aggressive attack. For all these reasons, since the first day of the war, Romania has stood firmly by Ukraine, and we have provided our support and assistance in all areas, starting with the refugees, people who chose to stay in Romania or only transited our country, providing emergency humanitarian support in different areas, including energy, supporting Ukraine to export its grain and agricultural products so that these products can reach the global markets, including the most vulnerable states who depend on Ukraine to ensure their food security. Actually, more than 60% of all the grains and agricultural products that were transiting the solidarity lanes went through Romania, through the Romanian ports. We also provided constant and significant political support to Ukraine in all international organizations, strong support for Ukraine's European and Euro-Atlantic aspirations, and we were actively involved in all efforts aiming to sanction Russia and to hold accountable those who committed crimes in and against Ukraine. Today, when we commemorate 1,000 days since the beginning of the war, I want to reiterate our firm support and our commitment to an independent, sovereign, and European Ukraine. Romania will continue to support you in any way we can. I'm very happy to see in the audience also children. Children should never listen to such conversations, but they give us hope for the future, and they give us strength. And I will stop here expressing my personal wish and the wish of Romania that after all these commemorations, the day will come soon when we will gather together to celebrate Ukraine's victory. I thank you very much and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to invite Mr. Goshu to share his opinion on this. He is a historian and associate professor at the University of Bucharest.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very honored to be here to commemorate 1,000 days from the starting of this devastating war. And I want to share with you some consideration, more academics, about the results of this 1,000 days of the war. The invasion of Ukraine in the early morning of February 24th, according to the Russian General Staff, was supposed to be the beginning of a victorious operations. However, 1,000 days later, a slow and devastating war of attrition is underway in Ukraine. The reason for this situation not only in the mistakes made by the Russian General Staff, which overestimated the capabilities of its army and underestimated the enemy's army, its size, fighting ability, and readiness to fight. Betting on Ukraine's unpreparedness for war, counting on the betrayal of officials and military officers, and errors of the quantitative and qualitative assessment of the Ukrainian armed forces capabilities led to the fact that the Russian army first failed to break into Kiev and then was forced to retreat. The Ukrainian armed forces were able to resist the first Russian strike thanks to the tactical training on their troops since 2014. The Ukrainian army had been gaining combat experience in the confrontation in the east of the country. In addition, the Ukrainian armed force still had enough ammunition, weapons, and military equipment to deter the Russian army. 1 million dead and wounded in Ukraine and Russia, dozens of Ukrainian cities wiped off the face of the earth. The largest wave of Ukrainian refugees, estimated at around 7 million people, mostly women, children, and the elderly, and the largest mass emigration of Russians, only part of the colossal damage caused by the war unleashed by Vladimir Putin. Russian propaganda follows Vladimir Putin in repeating that one of the goals of the invasion of Ukraine is to protect the residents of Donbas. However, many times more civilians have been killed in Donbas since the start of the full-scale war than in the previous 8 years of fighting. In all of Ukraine, according to official United Nations data alone, 12,000 Ukrainian civilians have been killed since February 2022, including 650 children, 2,600 people have been wounded, of which about 1,700 are children. The largest number of civilians casualties is in Donetsk region, followed by Kharkiv, Kherson, and Lugansk region. These are only minimum estimates. The United Nations counts only those cases of wounded or killed civilians that experts manage to verify from several sources. The real figures are much, much higher. According to the Wall Street Journal, since February 2022, about 1 million people have been killed and injured in Ukraine and Russia combined. Most of them are Ukrainian and Russian military personnel. Estimates of a number of dead servicemen in Ukraine vary from 21 to 80,000, and another 400,000 may have been injured. That's at least 80 military personnel killed every day. The war is taking a heavy toll on Ukrainian demographics. The country's population has already fallen by at least 15% from pre-war 42 million to about 36 million people, of which 4.5 million live in the Russian-occupied territories. Almost daily, the Russian army strikes Ukrainian civilian infrastructure, homes, hospitals, schools, and churches. During 2 years of full-scale war, according to calculation by the Kiev School of Economics, Russia has destroyed or damaged the homes of 3.4 million people. That's 250,000 residential buildings. That's about 9% of the total area of Ukrainians' housing stock. About 66,000 residential buildings have been completely destroyed. The Russian army is shelling not only residential houses, but also Ukrainians' energy infrastructure. The Russian authorities make no secret of the fact that they are doing this deliberately. Russian strikes have reduced the country electricity production by more than 70%. Since February 2022, almost all of Ukraine's major power plants have been attacked. This winter, Ukrainians may face blackouts for 8 to 20 hours a day. As of January 2024, the damage to real estate, energy, and other infrastructure is estimated at $160 billion. This is a colossal sum, almost half of all revenues of Russian federal budget for 2024. The International Criminal Court recognizes the strikes on Ukrainian energy infrastructure as a war crimes and issue arrest warrants for former Russian Defense Ministers Shoigu and Russian General Staff Chief Gerasimov. The front line stretches almost 1,000 kilometers. According to the Deep State project, now about 18% of Ukrainian territory is occupied by Russia. 7% were already occupied before February 2022. The Ukrainian army force managed to liberate another 7% of the captured territory during counteroffensive in August till November 2022. The occupation authorities used torture against local residents who remain in the captured territory of Ukraine in order to break their resistance. The exact number of civilian prisoners kidnapped by Russian military and security forces is unknown. The Ukrainian Center for Civil Liberties estimated that there are at least 7,000 people of them. The Russians are paying a high price of the invasion. According to calculations by BBC Russian service Meduza and Mediazon, based on the list of the dead from open sources and the register of inheritance cases, 120,000 Russians had already died in the war by July of this year. By September, the number of deaths could rise to 140,000. Thus, irrevocable losses of the Russian army could amount to 420,000 people. Another number of soldiers were missing in action. War is costing the Russian budget dearly. In 2024, Russia's spending on national defense reached about 11 trillion rubles. For the first time in history, exceeded spending on social policy, which includes pension, benefits, and other social payments. Taking into account classified items, total spending on war this year will reach about 14.7 trillion rubles, which is more than 40% of all budget expenditure. This figure will only continue to grow. The Russian government has proposed to allocate 13.5 trillion rubles for defense next year, a record amount of the history of modern Russia. In addition to the military, spending on Kremlin propaganda and patriotic education is growing. High military spending is accelerating price growth. Since the beginning of the war, everything from eggs to butter to real estate has gone up in price in Russia. According to Rosat, prices rose 27%, officially rose 27% during the invasion. According to alternative calculation based on checks, by 87%. Prices will continue to rise further. This is the consequences of putting the economy on war footing, for which Russians have to pay the price. And coming to the end. One last thought of this inventory of tragedies. Apart from the money, arms, and ammunition that Ukraine receives from the West, the only guarantee that Russia will not start a new aggression in a month, year, 5 years time is Ukrainian integration into NATO and the European Union. That is what is really at stake in this war. Thank you for attention.
Thank you, Mr. Goshu. I would like to ask Maria Korolchuk. She is Vice President, Ukrainian Association, Malva, Bucharest.
Thank you so much for letting me speak, and thank you for inviting our community-based organization to this event. Thank you to Poșta Română. You know, all of us here have heard today a lot of words like hope, inspiration, and Ukrainians indeed, with this full-scale invasion, they have showed that the books that we read when we were children, that Ukrainians have this free spirit, they're strong, they love their independence, it is not only in storybooks, it really is true. Did we want to become strong during this war? I don't think so, because in the 21st century, to imagine this atrocity, I mean, it was like an anti-utopic film. But what I can tell you is that it is one thing to be labeled as this inspiring nation that inspires and brings hope to all of Europe and beyond, but it's hard to actually live through this every day. I mean, all of you came today. In Bucharest, it's kind of cold in the morning, right? 1 degree in the morning, cold. And we walk inside the building where it's warm. We can switch on the lights here in Bucharest. We have our Wi-Fi. I mean, if we really want to, we can go to a detox retreat without electricity and, you know, where we can get the water from the stream, for example. But it's a choice. In Ukraine, there is no choice. It is cold. The infrastructure was targeted. People don't have heat. And the winter is only coming. It's only beginning. The children who are there are still trying to study. It's a challenge for them every day. The economy should keep rolling because we must have the opportunities to support our defense forces. That means people have to go to work in the conditions when there is no electricity. You want to take a shower because we're in the 21st century. You can't because there's no water. When we think about war, sadly, for these 1,000 days, people around the world have grown accustomed seeing these awful images of missile strikes, of hearing the sounds, of seeing people destroyed, of seeing tears of people. We have become accustomed. What I would like for you to imagine for a second is to, when you think of war, don't think of these images, but think of people. Because it's always about the people, their stories. I spoke before the EESC for 136 days of wars thinking, how can the world continue just watching in a way? Yes, helping, but, you know, letting these atrocities happen when it was 136 days. Now we are past 1,000. Today we're commemorating 1,000 days. And with my utmost gratitude to the defenders of Ukraine, both males and females, I would like to say that this resilience can be seen in Ukrainians outside of Ukraine as well. And now we're talking about mostly female and children. You know, each nation, they have their kryptonite. Some lines that should not be crossed. For Ukrainians, this is the children. On the first days of the full-scale invasion, the borders, those who saw the borders, it was 100% female and children. Females who, when they crossed the Romanian border, sadly, due to many factors, knew nothing about Romania. They didn't know where they were going, they didn't know how they would be received, but they knew one thing, they had a mission, they needed to save their children. And the way that Romania received Ukrainian refugees was something beyond. Even me, I remember I had the situation when we were I was with my 3 children, and I met a very old, around 80-year-old Romanian lady. Now, she didn't speak a word of English, I didn't speak a word of Romanian, but we had a conversation. We understood each other. And at that moment, I thought, how come with Russia, with a neighbor, we know most of Ukrainians know Russian. We share a similar history in some ways. We were considered brothers, before. Now, there is such misunderstanding. But with Romania, that so many Ukrainians sadly know nothing about, we have this mutual empathy, this solidarity, this unity. And even now, I'm a representative of a community-based organization that is led by the Ukrainian refugee women, but we are a Romanian local NGO. Our work that we do with youth, with women, will expand beyond just the Ukrainian population. We want to bring benefit also to the Romanian population. This is what unity looks like. When we don't want to divide each other by the language principles, we don't want to divide each other by the history. We just want to stand because we have same human priorities, that we have some human, sorry, I'm a bit emotional. Let's just say that we're just human. So Malva, community-based organization, was founded by our wonderful president, Inessa Shigai, who sadly cannot be present here today. Now, she is a twice displaced Ukrainian with Korean roots. Her journey started back in the Donetsk region when she was forced to flee within the first Russians' invasion, let's call them invasion, imperialistic views started. She went to Odessa. But when the war started and it was a full-scale invasion, she decided to move to Korea. But her first stop was Romania, because here you have a South Korean embassy. But when she saw how she was needed to help these lost women, she decided to stay. And in a way, she united women around her to a self-organized group. And with time, by the fact that she provided a safe space for these women and children, it grew into a formal entity. And now we're able to help women, children, and youth. Because once more, as I say, these are the future generation, the one that will help Ukraine in the nearest future for reconstruction. They are the future leaders. They need to be safe. They need to have these leadership qualities. And while our defenders are doing the most in Ukraine, I hope that Malva CBO will contribute to doing the most and holding the front back in Romania to help these women and children to become stronger, and when the time comes, help Ukraine in its reconstruction. And we have so many stories to tell. I mean, I can continue because I love our females who are part of our community. They're the ones who empower the Ukrainian females, empower the Ukrainians abroad. They inspire the people, not only in Romania, but I believe in other countries. And together, once more, we would not have been able to do this without the support of the Romanians, who were always so open and so warm-hearted to help us, to teach us how to navigate around in Romania, how to build this organization, help us with contacts, help us keep our people safe. And for that, I will forever be grateful to Romania. And with this, I would like to stop because it is getting a bit emotional.
Thank you so much to you. These were the interventions of our distinguished guests, but we also have the same type of event across Romania and in Moldova, in Chișinău. There are 8 cities, Timișoara, Brașov, Cluj, Craiova, Iași, Constanța, and Chișinău, who are organizing similar events locally to promote the same message, that Romania should continue being next to Ukraine in all possible ways and means. I hope we are ready for allowing our friends. Oh, sorry. Also in Ploiești, I see our coworkers from Ploiești being here present as well. I think we are ready. We should start with Brașov. If Bogdan Năstase is ready.
Noi făceam tot
As you can see, it's as natural as it can be.
I don't know if I heard well. We are gathered here with my colleagues.
Yes, we can hear really well, Bogdan. You can talk. We have other friends who want to join. We should mute them. Freedom of speech is not something we should allow at this moment.
Yeah, I see Raresh here with his microphone open, and
Just a second, Bogdan.
I don't know if you see my colleagues behind me. We just finished sending the postcards, and if you allow me, I have 2 or 3 minutes of my thoughts written down on a piece of paper, and I want to share with you if it's okay with that.
Yes, please go ahead.
So today we mark 1,000 days of resilience, struggle, and courage since the beginning of the full-scale war in Ukraine. 1,000 days have been proof to strength of human spirit and reminder of the huge cost of this conflict. This milestone is not about counting days. It's about honoring lives, acknowledging sacrifices, and reviewing our commitment to peace and solidarity. As Ukraine now enters the third winter of war, the season of chill reflects the enduring hardship faced by millions of families separated, homes destroyed, lives forever changed, and unimaginable challenges. Yet, in the darkest moments, we have witnessed acts of profound humanity and strength. Since the beginning of the war, and during these challenging times, Compania Națională Poșta Română has played its part in supporting Ukrainian and its people. Throughout logistic and aid initiative, we have worked to provide essential support to Ukrainian refugees and to ensure that humanitarian aid reaches those who need it the most. Whether delivering critical supplies or facilitating communication, Romanian Post has stood by the values of compassion and solidarity. These also remind me of a personal moment a few years ago when my little daughter was in kindergarten. She had Ukrainian classmates, and one day she came home excited to share a discovery. She learned from them that the Romanian word rana, which means wound, has the same meaning in Ukrainian. Struck me how interconnected we are, even throughout shared words that reflect pain and healing. Let this milestone inspire us to work for a better future, where anniversary like this do not longer need to be marked. Thank you.
Bogdan, thank you so much. We did miss some of your thoughts, but I think the message went through. And also, thank you so much to you and to your team. I see them in the background there for organizing this event in Brașov.
Yes, and I have also Ukrainian colleague here in Brașov. And if you think it's opportune, I can let her share she's thoughts with us.
Of course,
about the event and the meaning of the event.
Please.
Bună ziua! Îmi pare bine că scuze la limba română, e bine? Ok. Mulțumesc mult pentru invitație la evenimentul acesta și mulțumesc mult pentru sprijinul care simțim de la România, de la poporul român, de la Poșta României. Mulțumim că aveți atenție cu tot ce se întâmplă în Ucraina, cu fiecare zi când ucraineni este aici, în România, și mulțumim foarte tare pentru sprijinul care simțim aici, în Brașov. Mulțumesc!
Mulțumim și noi, cred că măcar atât să facem. La Timișoara, Adi Lulciuc.
Yes, I'm here.
Can you please
Yes.
share your thoughts with us?
Yes, we just finished the event, and we just finished to mark 1,000 days, and I want to tell you today I would like to talk about the Romanian Post and its solidarity with Ukraine, especially on this important day, 1,000 days since the start of the unjust war. For these 1,000 days, the people of Ukraine have shown us extraordinary courage in facing the Russian invasion. Their strength inspired us as all, reminding us of the power of unity and support. In this time, the Romanian Post has been more than a postal service. It became a partner in solidarity, helping send donations and humanitarian aid to Ukraine. Romanians were able to send food, clothing, and other essential items to those affected by the war, proving the compassion knows no borders. Today, to mark this significant milestone, the Romanian Post honors Ukraine's resistance by issuing a special postcard. This postcard is more than a symbol. It represents hope, support, and a message to Ukraine that is not alone in this fight for freedom. And if you allowed me, I would like to show them the postcards. This is one of them. The second one. Hope all the people see the postcard.
Yes, we can see them really well.
So, as a nation, Romania has stood firmly beside Ukraine, offering shelter to refugees and humanitarian aid to those in need. These actions reflect our shared values of peace, humanity, and solidarity. After 1,000 days, Ukraine continues its fight for freedom, and we continue to stand with them, inspired by their courage and determination. Together, we hope for a future of peace and unity. Thank you very much, and Slava Ucraina.
Thank you, Adi. I would like to come back to the room and in conclusions, Mr. Ambassador, Madam Secretary of State, Madam Vice President, and Mr. Professor, what should be the message we send to Romania and Romanian nation after 1,000 days of war in Ukraine?
The brief message that I would like to deliver to our Romanian friends and to the Romanian public would be that we confront an evil force that must be stopped. We want peace. We want genuine peace. And to make it happen, we must stand together to win this peace. Thank you very much for all the support that we receive. Thank you.
I would only add that helping Ukraine is for Romania the right thing to do. It's our national interest to help our neighbor. It's our moral duty to help the Ukrainian people. And as a diplomat, I can assure you all that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will continue to play its part in helping Ukraine, in combating firmly this idea that we should get used to these horrific images and to these horrific stories, and we should never get tired of providing all the help and all the assistance we need. Thank you.
I would like to continue the same thoughts and say that in order to help this inspiring nation that loves its freedom, that brings so much to this world. And sorry, I'm a Ukrainian, I'm a bit biased, but I do believe that our nation is special. I believe that we need hope, we need some help to keep this hope alive. And together, if we're united, we would be able to continue the fight until our freedom. Thank you so much.
As a representative of academia, of civil society, Romanian civil society, which valued your sacrifice, your heroism, I promise you that a major part of the Romanian civil society, Romanian expert corpus, will continue to support Ukraine to the victory.
I would like to turn the microphone to to you, to people who was patiently waiting for us to finish our messages, and to invite you to ask a question or just send a message if you would like, and you can use either English, Romanian, or Ukrainian.
Yes, you can hear me now, yeah, okay. And to ask you about some economic issues, how you will deal with foreign debt, how you will finance the war in 2025. This is very important. I will keep a short comment after your response.
Well, that's a good question, and I'm certain that the Minister of Finance of Ukraine would be in a better position to answer it. As I said in my intervention, the Ukrainian budget is directed, and the expenditures of the current year, the bulk of it are directed to financing the defense sector. We largely depend on financial assistance from our international partners to perform all social obligations of the state. So basically, the public sector, the pensions have been paid out, having the finances from the international partners. We continue to rely. There have been a number of decisions taken on the level of the European Union, on the level of the G7 countries, in relation to making financial allocations for Ukraine for the next year. And this is what has been placed on what the Ukrainian budget for next year was based. What we continue to work upon is to have a decision on provision to Ukraine of Russian frozen assets. Until now, there has been a decision on providing the interest from those assets, whereas we do see a legitimate. We do see the legitimacy of the position to seek the direction of the entire frozen sum of Russian assets to Ukraine, in view of the damages inflicted and in view of the losses that Ukraine experienced. This would be a very significant extra sum to finance the Ukrainian expenditures. But for now, again, we are largely dependent on financial support of the international partners.
Okay, I will also make a proposal. Maybe you took into consideration already. To finance the foreign public debt, not necessarily the internal public debt. You can use a scheme, debt equity swap. Maybe the finance ministry use it. I'm not sure. You sell shares on exchange of debt. It's not a simple scheme. but you can use it, and it has an important political stake, not only an economic. Okay? It's a form of privatization, but at the same time to reduce the level of the public debt, especially of the poor. It's just a proposal.
Thank you. Any other wishes to comment? Yes, please. So we have, for today, we, except these events, we also prepare two types of channels to send the message. One of them creating some large posters that we stick on our cars. So all Romanian fleet is labeled with the image of this event. So they are just driving around the cities, and we're going to keep them for a while there. So the event doesn't end now. It's going to continue on the streets of Romania. And the second channel that we are using is the symbolic postcards that we created. And I think you have them right there, which we would invite you at the end of the event, which is in a few minutes, to send a postcard to your friends. You can send them anywhere in the world. They are pre-stamped to continue sending this message. And we have our friends from Post-Crossing. Post-Crossing.
Okay. So, hello everybody. My name is Mihnea Răducu, and I'm kind of ambassador of Post-Crossing in Romania because I'm sending a lot of postcards from Romania. I am wearing a Vyshyvanka directly from Zaporozhye, sent last year by a friend of mine in Zaporozhye, in Romanian, traditional blouse, and I am very proud of it. And I have also here a flag of Romania and flag of Ukraine, and in every post-crossing meeting that I am going across the world, I am wearing those and making photo with those, really. Thank you so much. So today we will send for what I counted, 400 or 500 postcards to the entire world, from Tonga to Trinidad Tobago, from Svalbard Island near the North Pole to, I don't know, Belize or Bermuda. So basically more than 80 countries will receive today from us postcard with the message. Even more, I have prepared a postcard for Mr. President Zelensky, a postcard for Mr. President Macron, a postcard for Mr. Schulz, and for Ursula von der Leyen. I prepared them because the addresses are public online. So I am very honored to be today here. Thank you to my colleague who are as well postcard collectors. And nowadays, we are still sending postcards around the world and receiving postcards. And I have here some postcards received from Ukraine. Here you can see the famous stamp with the Russian vessel and also the tractor carrying a tank. And here I have a postcard from a wedding in Ukraine. It is even more a maxi card because a stamp was issued with the same image. And here it's a postcard handmade with diamond painting, a lot of them, like hundreds of them, and it's the same image and it's a postcard. I mean, those postcards still exist today, and thanks Romanian Post, who deliver and to and back in Romania. So, if it's possible, I have 2 short movies made by friends in Ukraine, because I have a lot of lady friends in Ukraine, and they are on YouTube with English subtitles. One of them is in Ukrainian language with English subtitle, and 2 of them are in English. It is possible that?
It's fine by us, only if our friends from the technical team can help you with.
I can say that 2 years ago, in November 2022, I went in Svalbard, near the North Pole, and I met there Lady Daria Bielorozova, is from Ukraine, working in the hotel in Svalbard, so very close to.
Руху і знаходжуся в Одесі. Я дякую всім незламним захисникам і захисницям, що я і досі маю змогу прокидатися в українській Одесі і говорити українською мовою. З перших днів повномасштабного вторгнення Росії в Україну я мала місію не просто робити все можливе для захисту своєї країни, а й підтримати однодумців. Тому кожного дня писала мотивуючі пости, зберігаючи нашу єдність. Посткросинг допоміг за допомогою листівок розповісти історію моєї країни світові. І зрозуміти, що ми не самі. Я дякую всім націям і всім країнам, що допомогли українцям, а також знайшли час, щоб написати слова підтримки на листівках. Моя особлива подяка румунським посткросерам та міхнеям. На кожній вашій зустрічі майоріє синьо-жовтий прапор України і лунають слова підтримки українцям. Навіть зараз я тримаю у руках листівку з вашими теплими побажаннями найскорішого миру. Листівки, які ми отримуємо від вас, заряджають нас енергією, вірою та надією навіть у найтемніші часи. Це як теплі обійми, які потрібні кожній людині на цій планеті. Дякую ще раз, що підтримуєте українців. Слава Україні!
To everybody who joined today. And I can say, as always saying when talking with my friends in Ukraine, tomorrow is the day of victory. It's important that that tomorrow come fast. Slava Ukraini. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. This is all.